Welcome to 3 seasons of pod. I'm not even gonna say what episode it is anymore because I lose track like every time, and I don't feel like
Well,
checking.
we'll lock in. We'll
I t-
lock in on that eventually.
we'll lock in eventually, but at this point, you know what? If you're here, you're here. All right,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
fact.
that's all that fucking matters. Okay, so
Mhm.
we can jump right into it. Okay, so I believe we all had Celtics in like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Basically,
yeah. Okay, cool. We're
basically
doing this
five.
first.
Yeah, we'll do it first because it's the quickest one, right?
This is the quick. Yeah, I was
You know
thinking
what
the
I'm
same
saying?
shit.
Like, honestly, I don't really take much out of this series. I know we lost game 2.
Yeah.
And the world was ending on Celtics Twitter and in the world, right? It sucks because like whenever the Celtics lose, I'm like known as the Celtics guy, right? I got like a Celtics backpack. I got the fucking lanyard. I'm always wearing like I have actually like polos with the Celtics logo on it. So like whenever
Yeah,
I go
yeah.
to work, all my coworkers, I'm like, yo, like they call me T. Like, yo, T, what happened last night? Like, yo, like not in like a mean way, but it's just like they come to me and I'm just like, yo, man, I'm not feel, I don't want to talk about it. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's like there's like you don't really go into in depth with certain people. Like,
Mhm.
for the most part, everybody you work with is generally a casual for the most part,
Yeah.
right? And then you have like here and there you have like in depth conversations. So I'm just like, we had that L. I feel like they had an outlier shooting night. Not to give an excuse, but I don't think a single Cavs player that took more than 5 shots shot less than 50% that game. And for
Yeah,
the
no. The whole
most,
as a team, they went
yeah,
crazy.
and
Mhm.
and for the most part, credit to the Cavs. They made They made competitive games, in the 2 games that they lost. Donovan Mitchell, and
Mm-hmm.
you got to give them credit. But I didn't feel like we played that bad. I think the discourse around the team was that it is, and to be fair, they haven't proven us otherwise. But the discourse has always been we play down to our competition, and for a lot of reasons that's true. But
Yeah.
I didn't get that feeling personally in that
Mhm.
series for the
Yeah,
most
I
part.
mean, it didn't feel
Yeah.
like we were playing down to the competition. I think their offense plus their role players kind of just like stepped up to at least make it competitive. I don't think it was ever like frightening or like we felt like, oh my god, we're about to lose a trap game or anything like that. Because I mean, obviously
Agreed.
we see those a lot in the regular season, but yeah, those games felt like the Cavs were just like pulling out everything to keep up, and they were basically like the
Yep.
role players were playing like uh, to their best capabilities essentially, playing really good defense, hitting their shots essentially. Like everyone, like there obviously some players had colder days or whatever like that, but for a whole they kind of were fluid, and I think it was kind of reminiscent of when you we saw um, Evan Mobley and Darius Garland out instead, where it was just Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen, and a lot of their guys were also stepping up, but the offense just looked way more fluid, and they went on like a whatever streak. Like that was when they were surging into like that top 2 seed or whatever like that, and then obviously kind of steadied out. But that offense just looked much better with those two gone, and it's not a product of those guys or whatever like that, but I think just those combinations that we've talked about prior with like the double bigs and the double guards and stuff like that. Once it's just like you have essentially three and D guys, you have the big man that's like can anchor and has like some offensive capability, and then that main guard with a lot of the this shot creation and stuff like that. It becomes a lot easier for them, and I think that's what we saw essentially. Um, and hey, we closed it out in the way that we should have, so it wasn't anything too worrying in my opinion.
Agreed.
Mhm. Nah, that's facts. Like, I think I don't know if I said it in the last episode, but I mean, I think we did say Cavs in 5, but I think
Yeah.
it's kind of like obvious. The Cavs had to play a perfect game to beat us, in my opinion. Even if we weren't playing up to par and stuff like that. I think they in game 2 did just that. They felt like they just couldn't miss on anything, like shooting everything, and they were just doing everything right. Everything was falling into place. And I think on our end, we just weren't ready for that, and we just couldn't like do anything about it. But then I was like, I mean, the last 2 series, game two's been like a kryptonite for us. Like we lost game 2 to Miami, then we lose game 2 to Cleveland. So I don't know, but I think it's a little not concerning, but I like the fact that when we do lose and our backs are against the wall, like capable, and we know that we can respond, and we did so by going into Cleveland, taking both games, and essentially coming back Game 5 and closing it out. So I wasn't, not worried at all. Like everybody kind of like over exaggerating. Same thing with me, my coworkers are like, "Oh, what happened last game?" Like I can't, I don't want to talk about this right now. Like it's
Yeah.
L's an L. Like we're not gonna lose. You act like we lost the series in that one
Yeah.
game. So,
Yeah.
you know what I
Exactly.
mean? It's not no big deal. So I just kind of just brush it off, and then it was like, you just watch these next two games, and then they're like, oh yeah, see what they're doing. Like I can see they get frustrated, like because they're casuals, but I'm just like, yo, like it's the playoffs, like things are gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
we have to make
Yeah.
adjustments too. They'll make adjustments, and we make adjustments. So
Yeah, I would
it's
say
you know,
the only like weird thing I don't think it's a huge deal, and I don't think it'll even like be a point that gets brought up. But I could see uh like these teams shoot crazy on us. Like it's bound to happen essentially, and I don't
Yeah.
know. And like it's like it feels like it could be a schematic thing. Basically, is what I'm trying to like entail.
Yeah.
Where it's like we may let them like there are times where I feel like we're giving those shots, and that's not like the best way to go about it at all times. I mean, I guess in a larger series, like it's not a big deal because, like you said, those or it feels like those are more anomaly games where it's like the whole team is shooting crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like we also haven't versed a very strong team and slash like healthy team as well. So it's like I could see that where it's like at this point it can't be like just there's got to be something to it if all these teams are shooting
I.
or at least have a game like that because it's like
I.
you guys get what I'm saying?
That's no. That's a great point
I,
because like
I get
my
it.
thought. This is my thought process, right? Like the drop coverage thing, because that's literally
Hmm.
what it's been doing.
Yeah.
And you look at the first two opponents we played, right? Miami and Cleveland. Like, and neither team has really any true shooting, right? You have some guys that can shoot, like Max Strus can shoot. Um,
Hmm.
I don't even know who can shoot in Miami. I'm not gonna lie,
Duncan Robinson,
I
really
can't
the
think
only other.
of I can't think of a name. Maybe Duncan Robinson, but like he barely played.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
but like the drop coverage sort of makes sense in that scenario. And when a team doesn't have shooters, I guarantee you, if we played Orlando, we would have done the same thing. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, can you shoot? And then it just so happens, game two, for whatever fucking reason, somebody made an offering, and boom, the
Yep.
shots were falling, right? But like, I have a hard time believing we would do the same thing against Indiana. Cause
No,
Yeah.
they,
that's what I'm
you know
saying.
what I mean?
Mm.
Or even like if you look further ahead on the teams that we will play, I don't think we would do that against like a Dallas
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
I can't think of a shooter in Minnesota, but like we might do it against
Yeah.
Minnesota. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was gonna say we probably
Yeah.
will, but like in theory,
Yeah.
we probably wouldn't against
Yeah.
like a team that like shoots well. But like I said, I
Yeah.
don't know if that like we haven't been able to see the different looks based
Yeah.
off of the different teams that we'd be versing.
100%.
Mhm.
I would say like even like in the Ime time frame, like when we did run drop, like that was obviously a thing with the Warriors and like a big point of
Which
discussion
was
and all that stuff.
fucking crazy when you think
Yeah, yeah.
about
So it's
it.
like that's where I'm like, once it's happened so many times, you can't just be like, oh my god, these guys had like a crazy shooting night. It's like, yes, they had a crazy shooting night, but we're also giving them those looks throughout the series,
100%.
and it might not even be a problem. Like I said in the beginning, where it's like we might that might be the scheme that helps us win it all, anyways,
Right.
or like the main scheme that we run. But yeah, it's like with the 3 point shooting and like how much teams are shooting, it makes sense that we are dropping these random games, or like there is a game where a team just completely goes off,
Right.
rather than us like obviously wanting to sweep or feeling like oh we're the better team. We
Right.
shouldn't have dropped that one game.
Yeah. But man, moving forward, I think I don't have any concerns yet. Personally, I think we've handled business the way we would have hoped that this team would in the first two rounds, right? Like it's very
Yeah.
hard to sweep in the playoffs. Like, it's obvious. All right, the discourse is obviously this is a cakewalk, and to be honest, it kind of is.
Oh yeah, and I'll
But-
take that.
But NBA teams are good, and it's
Yep.
very hard to sweep a team. So I'm very happy with their performance. So moving forward though, so the Knicks and Pacers.
Hey, yeah, give me one sec. I'm gonna just give something real quick. You guys
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
continue.
Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, that's all good. So like the Knicks and Pacers, I feel like that was probably the best series in,
Yeah.
in the first round. From
In the
game
first
to
round.
game. From game to game.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it was the best series because all the games minus like I think one game where the Pacers just destroyed the Knicks.
right.
Like all the games were like relatively competitive, right? But
Next Pacers.
Knicks Pacers, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I think Kyle and I had Pacers in 7, and then Nick, I think you had Knicks in 6 or 7.
Six and six and
Um,
seven. Yeah.
and for me, I feel like it went the way I thought it would because man, dude, it's the Tom Thibodeau effect, bro. Like that dude is just playing his players into the ground.
You know, okay, real quick, I agree with that, but they also got like
To
really
be
unlucky too.
no, but to be fair, that's actually what I was gonna say. Like,
Okay, okay.
to be fair, right? Like the Julius Randle injury was not Thibodeau's fault, clearly. Brunson breaking his hand, clearly not Thibodeau's fault. The
Josh
OG
Hart.
Josh Hart thing was Thibodeau's fault, dude. You don't
Yeah,
fucking
I mean
strain
that
your
was
abdomen
different.
unless you're
I think it was like Isaiah Hartenstein.
Oh,
He had like a random ankle thing too,
yeah,
something like
Hartenstein,
that. Like those
yeah,
are some that you can't even like
exactly.
blame on
You know,
how many minutes.
same thing with the Mitchell Robinson thing where he like fell on him or Embiid fell on him or vice versa,
Mhm.
whichever one it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
Like to be fair to that, but I'm not really blaming the injuries on him, but I do think they looked fucking exhausted and yeah,
Yeah.
sure, partially that's injuries, but that's also partially playing 45 minutes a game since January. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just thought going into that series, the Pacers' best shot at winning, and I do believe the Knicks were still a better team. The Pacers' best shot at winning was making it a track meet and making the Knicks keep up with them pace-wise instead of playing like a half-court, down to the wire, gritty game. Like pushing the pace would eventually allow them to squeak out 4 wins, and I think that's what happened. Honestly, because
Yeah, no, I
they were
agree.
scoring like those games were like plus 15 to 20 points higher than what the
Yeah,
Knicks were.
especially the
shooting.
ones that they did win,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
instead of like grinding it out or whatever. And I mean, this is what I was saying, where I was like, this is what I feel like was the peak of this trade and stuff like that. Obviously, it was like it took certain things happening with like injury luck and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, they can only play like who's in front of them. But the offense was basically what you're saying in terms of like being able to run up and down. And I think the Knicks, honestly, I would say I would want to give a lot of more credit to what they were doing on the defensive end. Not that they like locked anyone up or held the team down a lot or anything like that. But once they found the matchups, in my opinion, and I was also saying this in like the group chat where it was just like Neesmith on Brunson was very effective.
Yep.
And after they found that and they kept running it, that was probably the games that they won the most. Because obviously they dropped like one or two after like game 6 or something like that. But yeah, it just the fact that they were able to show up defensively enough because you could see it throughout the whole team that everyone was putting in effort. It's not like they are a super defensive minded team, but seeing them locking in that kind of way, and even just like role players like the Obi Toppins and stuff like that picking up 94 feet.
They made him.
Yeah, it's like that played more into the part of like tiring out the Knicks compared to playing their game. Because like I said, I assumed they were always going to play their game on offensive end, but really making the defensive effort tougher for the Knicks as well, I think played the biggest part. And like I said, seeing them able to lock in that kind of way was what I was like expecting at their peak, and why I was like, oh, they could probably reach an Eastern Conference Finals this year. Um, yeah. Besides all the injury stuff, I still think they definitely earned this spot.
Mhm. I mean, I agree. They earned it, but everybody talking about our cake run. I feel like Indiana kind of got a cake run.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
100%
Like,
got a cake run.
come on, man. Playing the Bucks, injured Giannis, and then Dame getting hurt, Middleton getting hurt, all the good players, and then you come freaking face an injured, depleted Knicks team. Like, that's insane. Like, don't get me wrong. They're gonna be up for a wake up call this series. But like I said, I said it last pod, I will give my props to them.
Yeah,
They beat the Knicks. I give them their props. They're about to get their ass beat this series.
No,
I tell you that. But I mean, I always just want to talk about the Knicks real quick. Like, I feel like they would have won this series. I mean, it's all Thibodeau's fault. I agree. Like him running his players down to the ground, but I feel like he could have took a different approach to like making an adjustment to what the Pacers were doing. like of course they put Neesmith on Brunson. They were finding matchups that they could exploit and all that. But I feel like in games 6 and 7, I feel like he had a spark in Alec Burks that
Yeah.
he kind of went too late into like utilizing, in my opinion. Because like in game 6, Alec Burks, I mean, I think even though they got blown out and they lost, like I feel like he was the energizer. Like he came in, he was getting buckets
Yeah,
when
they cut it to
the
like
Knicks couldn't
7 at
win.
one point in that
Yeah,
game.
yeah, and then even in game 7, like he was like a determining factor. Like he was the one that had the energy while everybody else was like running on fumes. So I think if he were to like use him more and kind of like, I don't know, because he's a vet, man. Like we talked about, Celtics acquiring him. He how useful he would be. Like he definitely proved it, and I just felt like he wasn't given the opportunity.
Yeah.
But I think the Knicks had their chances. Again, they were just, they just didn't have it. Everything was just not on their
You
side.
know,
So
I'll give Tibbs this, right? Like I know we've been kind of shitting on him the last 3 weeks. Tibbs is a great coach. Um,
sure.
the fatal flaw in him is he just refuses to go into his fucking bench. Like
no,
Yeah.
even in the regular season. Like okay, you understand that in the playoffs, but like bro, you don't got to play 7, 8 man rotation for 82 games. And that's
Yeah, I think
you know what I
the
mean?
nuance is that like he's down to do, or like he would have done that with this roster
Yeah.
if they were healthy, but he didn't trust those guys who could come up with something like an
Yep.
Alec Burks, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like
Mhm.
he, because they have like a 10-man rotation, and it's like I have
Yeah.
no doubts that he would have ran a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
Maybe not like as much, but he would have ran those guys like normal amounts of minutes and stuff like that. But it's when he starts to get depleted that he
Yeah.
doesn't have trust in those other guys. Not that he should have trust,
Right.
but
Mhm.
because like they're at the end of the bench for a reason. But that doesn't mean that you can't like try it out and like get
100%.
those sparks and like because sometimes those guys can like change series, even if like they weren't playing the last series or they
Yeah.
weren't playing much to end the regular season and stuff.
Yep.
Sometimes those guys can just lock in and like shift the whole like one game, and that's all you need.
Yeah, that's all
Um,
you need. One game.
so it's like yeah, I think that's where I would not I would contest, I guess, with the idea that like Tibbs uh doesn't really like use his bench or like utilize his
Right.
players stuff like that.
No, that's fair. But to give him credit, like I said, he's a great coach, and I think he's instilled like a real culture that New York
Yeah.
hasn't seen in probably 20 years.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
can't think of the last time.
Yeah, definitely before like I was watching, man.
Yeah.
Like throughout my years of watching, this is the best Knicks team that
Yeah.
I've like ever
Like,
watched, and the most fun team I've
The,
ever
the
watched.
most recent good Knicks team was probably the Mellow Knicks when they had Tyson
Melo.
Chandler.
Yeah, and even that was
Yeah.
like
And that
it didn't
was-
feel
yeah,
like that was gonna be anything.
yeah, for real.
Mhm.
So, anyways, I think we should keep it Eastern Conference and we could do like a quick preview for the Pacers Celtics.
I'm cool with that.
I do like this matchup a lot. I think this for the Celtics, obviously. You know, one thing about the Celtics, and I think this is what a lot of people see when they play like a half court game, their offense tends to struggle a lot more. And I think this is going to be a series where Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown will get their numbers.
Yeah.
And I think
I
that
agree.
will work in our favor. If
Yep.
like we're playing, these are going to be I think the running theme of this, like the previews to this series, is the top 2 offensive rating teams in NBA history are facing off
Yeah.
in the conference finals, right? And I think when you go toe to toe, like we have that advantage. We obviously have an advantage over a lot of teams, but like I think I'm looking forward to Jason Tatum getting his numbers. I'm sorry, like I may sound like a stand in that regard, but like I think what I love the most about the end of that Cavs series, we finally got fucking Point Tatum, right?
Yeah.
As a Joe Mostly defender, I'm starting to question why he's becoming the Michael Jordan of Tobias Harris's, like someone has said before, right?
I'm saying, bro.
But, like-
it's crazy.
But like, I was very happy with game 4 and 5 Tatum. In the
Yeah.
Cavs series.
No, I agree. Especially 5.
I'm hoping to see more of that in this series.
Yeah. Like game 5, Tatum is I like think the ideal or the Tatum that we might need to win it all.
I
Like
think we will need to win it all. To be
We're gonna
honest,
need it.
yeah, but like the only reason why I say that is because I think he could be like extra scorer mode and also like win us or like help win the series. But what he's been striving for, or what it seems like his gameplay has been like leaning more towards, is that game five.
Yep.
Specifically because he didn't take any crazy, like the shots that he was taking that game weren't very much different from the rest of the shots that he's been taking in this playoffs. The only difference was that he's not in this crazy, or I mean he could still be in it, but it didn't feel like he was in that crazy ass shooting slump. Outside of like step back threes and stuff like that I've had complaints about. He was also just missing very easy shots that he typically makes,
Yep.
and that's why I was like, it feels like he's more of like in a slump right now rather than like he don't got it. So that game five just felt like the perfect culmination of what he's been trying to play like, I guess, throughout this playoffs, where it's like he is getting that extra coverage and he's making the right plays alongside hitting the shots that he wants to take. Because I mean he was relatively efficient, and I'm not saying he's going to shoot like 60% for these series or whatever like that, but being able to hit at least like 50% of those shots outside of the 3s is basically all we're asking for, and that's it looked like it was coming together in that game five. So it's like I could see a world where that point Tatum and like him not scoring 30 plus will be the version that we see win it all. But I could also see the version of like 35 plus Tatum helping us win it all as well, where it's like out of necessity we might need him to just go crazy because no one else is showing up.
100%.
Yeah, but I think what you were saying as well too, with just like the offense, is going to be, in terms of like the defensive personnel, like this is easily the best or the worst personnel that the Celtics have seen in the playoffs so far. So I'm very excited to see them take advantage of that because people are talking crazy right now.
Yo, actually though, like fucking actually though.
They're wilding, man.
I
I
thought
don't know. JT about to be. I mean, he's the favorite for the Eastern Conference
MVP.
Finals MVP. So,
Dude, oh my God, are you?
Man.
It was crazy when you saw the polls of like who might win it.
They were saying Derek
I don't know if you
White
saw
and
that.
Drew
Yeah.
Holiday, bro.
Yeah.
What?
And I was like, yo, I could understand
Wow.
Jaylen Brown, but like,
Yeah.
like that's how you know the conversations are crazy about Tatum right
Yo.
now.
Yeah, that's insane, man.
Slim's insane. He about to prove him wrong.
I agree.
He's got
No doubt about
it. Yeah, 100%.
And I think like this series could also help wake them up. I thought the Knicks would do like a better job of doing so because it'd be gritty and they'd have like those high pressure games because they'd be playing so not like so tight or anything like that, but they just never stop with the grittiness. But I think the Pacers as well can get us into those environments, but also kind of wake them up on the offensive end, mainly like Tatum, because
Honestly,
I think our offensive has been good.
it kind of is derivative of Nathan's beef with the Pacers. I think the Celtics might not like the Pacers after
That could be
shit
true.
that's gone on in the regular season,
Yeah.
man. Like,
Everything.
I don't think we
Yeah.
fuck with Nesmith anymore, man. That dude talking mad.
Nah, we don't. We don't fuck with him.
I mean,
man.
clearly they didn't fuck with him for a while. 'Cause
Yeah.
We don't fuck
as soon
with
as
him
they got
no more,
traded,
man.
he's been beefing.
Yeah.
Like,
Like that shit. That shit is real, bro. I'm telling you. That.
I guess so.
JB better if we pull off a sweep, man. JB better do that same emo he did back in 2017.
Wait, what did he do?
Sweeping emo.
Oh.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Do that. Pull that same shit. We'll be in Indiana. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, man.
nah, man. Neesmith, I'm telling you, if he's guarding JB about to have a field day with him. Man. I'm telling you, AB
He probably
is
will.
gonna
He probably
see
will be our
absolute
100%.
kill mode with him on it.
Yeah,
Ain't
I'm
no
just.
way-
No, you can finish up.
ain't no way he checking anybody else. He don't want to smoke with Drew Holiday and Derek White. Like, he gonna have to get.
No,
it.
that's facts.
He's gonna get it with anybody. So it don't really matter, man.
Yeah.
He about to see. This ain't the Knicks, man.
But I
But
mean,
yeah, what happened?
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Nah, Kyle was gonna say something before.
No, I was gonna say. No, I'm just excited for Tatum in this series specifically.
Yeah.
Like I think, this like the last two series have been very like people are. It's just the disrespect at that point, or like the talk. I'm just because I mean even like seeing people talk about like Pascal matching up against like Tatum and shit like that,
Yo,
and I'm like,
okay, y'all saw that graphic?
I saw that. I saw
You saw
that.
that?
Yeah, and like even the clip too. Or there was someone on Gil's pod that was saying
Rashad
stuff too.
McCants.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I think this series will be nice for people to just like remember who Tatum was,
Yeah.
and also for himself to remember who the hell he is.
Like, yo, legitimately, dude, legitimately, I thought I was listening to fucking 98.5 the Sports Hub and shit when I see these clips. It's crazy. Like,
No, it is crazy.
you know, it's always like a running thing. Like, people are always gonna assume that the national media is anti whatever team you're rooting for, right? That's just a natural progression of like fandom, right? Most people are gonna assume and hear only the negative stuff that gets said about their team. And it's going to be amplified, and it's going to be like, oh, you're anti-Boston. Oh, you're anti-Minnesota. You're anti-Denver. Whatever you may be, right? But, yo, man, this is legitimately anti-Boston. I don't think I've heard a single take. Maybe, like, I think I saw one good take positive take, rather, from Austin Rivers, right? But other than that one take he said, where we're like, oh, something about, like, not appreciating the team, blah, blah, blah. Like, everything has been negative, bro. Oh, Tatum hasn't done enough. Oh, the Celtics aren't playing up to par. Oh, did you see the way they lost? It's the way they like all this shit is just building up, and I don't think I've seen this much negativity from the national media towards Boston, and they're starting to rival fucking our own networks, which is insane. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's been odd. Like this is the first that I've seen to this extent. But hey, we'll just as we'll win and see what's up. Like for sure that these two conference finals, like I just want to see them show up.
Yeah.
Finals is a different conversation, but yeah, I think the talk about this series specifically is just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think other than Austin Rivers, I think I was watching Jeff Teague too. He was saying Celtics like they're gonna like everybody's down them, but it's easy for like easy for us.
To be fair, Jeff Teague got a little biased because he's homeboys with a lot of people on our team. So.
Yeah.
but I appreciate it though.
Sure. At least you're being kind of real, you know.
Yo,
everybody else kind of living in another world.
Yo, for real.
It's all good.
Thought I was listening to Felger and Maz. I was like, I shut that shit off like 10 years ago, man. Fuck those guys.
It's facts, bro.
All right, on to the West.
Yes.
Oh, actually, we didn't say it.
We make predictions.
Celtics in 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 5 for the vibes.
I want Celtics in 5.
I could see a world where it's 6.
I could be 6.
Yeah, I could see it going 6. I could also, you know, what's funny, right? Because that one game tip, I could easily see it being a sweep, and I could easily see it being 6 too.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
It could go either
like
way.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know about y'all, but I'm generally like with all the whole world kind of like down this and all that. I don't know. This is how I felt like throughout the whole playoffs and even this whole season. Like I feel like our season, of course, like we were saying, it's championship or bust.
100%.
But I feel like this season as a whole was kind of like a lose because we're so, we're the best team in the NBA. We're number 1 seed. We're having a cakewalk, Mickey Mouse run to the NBA Finals. Like every time, like it started with the playoffs. We lost Game 2 to the Cavs. I mean,
the Heat.
Yeah. Was it the Heat? Yeah. Oh yeah, Celtics should sweep them. They got no Jimmy Butler. Like it's always it's never
always some
taken
negative spin. Right?
It's always exactly.
Let me tell you what though. Let me tell you what. They can call it a Mickey Mouse ring all they want and be Dougie in at the fucking.
No, actually, that's what I'm saying. Like, it is a lose-lose situation, but I really don't give a fuck.
I
like,
do not give a fuck.
And it's not like this team is going away. So it's like, I still believe, or I strongly believe, barring like some crazy reworks and teams, that will still be like a top 3 team in terms of like roster construction and talent in the next season and potentially the following season after that. So it's like I just think that. I'm less concerned or worried about that. Obviously, it's hard. It's very, very hard to repeat, and I'm not even talking about like that's even projecting that we would win it this year.
Exactly.
But it's like I said, it's very hard to repeat. But I think if they do get that past that hump, this team will also look completely different. And I mean, narratives and stuff will change as well. It's like it's not like the Nuggets didn't have this as they were getting to their chip as well. And then as soon as they did, the fucking switch flipped and they got all the praise in the world, along with like respect, which was like already due. So it's like I think it would take a similar stance, and I don't like think too much about it. It is just funny to see though, especially like seeing how negative it goes. But yeah, we can flip to the Western. Lots of Celtics talk. We don't need all that.
I'll be wearing my championship hat, my championship jersey. You know, you can delete, block. Okay, so on to the West. All right, we can talk about the Thunder series first. Thunder Mavs.
Yeah.
I think we all had Mavs in 6, no? Or
I had
I had
Mavs in
6. I think
seven.
Nathan had 7.
You had 7.
I had 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had Mavs in 6. And I honestly think the series kind of played out the way I expected it would.
Hmm.
Not to like pat myself on the shoulder, but like
Shit should have been 5 though, high key.
it probably should have been 5.
But
Should
I
have
mean,
been.
6 is cool.
But
Should have been.
I think at the end of the day, like the Thunder's inexperience started to show up, and
Yeah.
the poise of the Mavs started to show up as well, right? Like
Hmm.
Luca and Kyrie have been there before. I think it's funny enough. Like we were talking about the additions of PJ Washington and Gafford, and they were pivotal in the series, right?
Yep.
They I think PJ Washington specifically had some pretty huge games,
Hmm.
in lieu
Yeah.
of and kind of like in support of Luca or Kyrie kind of not having it that specific night for that specific game.
Hmm.
I can't recall the exact games, but I think what we saw going into the series was the Mavs' ability to be shot makers in a series where Oklahoma City was pretty confident. I think defensively, right? They have really good defensive personnel, and I think at the end of the day, man, it was just it's the experience. I
Yeah.
think the experience made the difference. The shot making, they've been there before, and props to Oklahoma City, man. They looked really good for this playoff run, for their first playoff run with Shy as like the true 1A. I don't
Yeah.
know if I include the play in that conversation. It's just
No,
one
no,
game because
yeah,
I
I
feel like
wouldn't.
one game can go any way. But
Yep.
in a series where they've played the first round, they swept, and then they lost in 6. They looked really good for a young team. But I just think the Mavs had that edge just with experience.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, outside of just like experience, I think. And hey, I mean, I've been talking about this for a while, man.
And talent.
Like with the Mavs. I mean talent too, but like I think the overall like size and athleticism was, uh, not the biggest part, but like plays into that experience as well. It's very hard for younger guys to figure out how to get to their spots slash like make shots in general when there is a lot of just like size and athleticism thrown on you on the defensive end. And so it doesn't surprise me that a lot of the like yeah there were a lot of open threes generated for the Thunder that for many games like a lot of them just missed, um, outside of like Shea pretty much. But I think the physical slash like psychological effect of having, just like everyone talks about it, like once you get into the playoffs, there's like less space
Yep.
on like a 3 point shot potentially that you would have had in the regular season. So like that on top of the athleticism of the team overall, just like being able to throw bodies at you, I think caught up with them in a way that they haven't um, been able to experience yet. So that's why I think both of those like play a part. Because honestly, like Luca and Kyrie, outside of like probably like half the games, they didn't have like the greatest series collectively. And Luca was already like it was very he was inconsistent for his standards because of like injuries. Like you didn't know what he was gonna look like depending on the day.
Yeah.
Like obviously he had that triple double, super efficient. Didn't even fucking talk to the refs once that day, like that kind of game. And then you had the stinker the game before that, where it's like he basically lost them that game. And well, I wouldn't say like he completely lost it, but he missed pivotal like free throws and stuff like that. But as a team, like they just dropped the ball there.
Yep.
But yeah, I think all of those things played out the way that I was expecting as well too. Because the Thunder don't have a lot of size, and they've been saying this for the whole year that they just need size, but they were okay with not making making an impulsive move, because they know they have a lot to work with. So I think it was very successful for the Thunder, and seeing Shea play the way that he did and it transitioned into the playoffs was super nice to see, because I think he was probably the only one that like really showed up every single game.
Yep.
But I think the next step for him is being able to have like the impact that he did have, but also affect his team in the way that feels a bit more positive as well too. Because it didn't feel like, as even though he had really good games, that he was affecting the whole game as a whole.
It felt like he was just getting his numbers.
Yeah, like he didn't feel like he was affecting the team positively or in the way that like a Luka would, because of his gravity and his playmaking and all those things.
Yeah.
I think Shea can reach higher levels in terms of like incorporating his teammates and playmaking and all those things. And like I've said, they didn't hit a lot of their shots regardless. But I think that is the next evolution for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you guys pretty much hit everything up ahead for me. But big shout out to Dallas. I mean, I was kind of concerned after game one with the way OKC showed up. But, like, I mean,
That was so funny.
again, like we always said, experience was the key factor in this. So it clearly showed that. Luka's been there. Kyrie's been there too. Luka's, it's not, I wouldn't say fully experienced in the playoffs. Like, he's been successful. But, I mean, he's played overseas, internationally. I feel like that kind of helped him shape, his winning and stuff like that too. But for on OKC's part though, I was kind of like, yeah, they lack size, which is kind of what their big downfall is. I was just seeing in the recent Gordon Hayward post and him being disappointed in his role. I think that I feel like he could have played some sort of factor in the series. I wouldn't say he would have swayed the series and like had win, but I think he has a lot to offer too, like experience wise, and he's still capable of playing. I just think that OKC and Mark, I can't say his last name to be honest, but like
Oh,
I think he could have
Argy?
Dagnall or
definitely
whatever.
I think it's Dagnall.
something like that. Yeah, like he definitely could have incorporated and used his skill set and ability in some sort of way to kind of make a matchup in that against Dallas. But other than that, like I was extremely proud of the way OKC came in and handled business. Like I think it's just obviously the start for them. Like they'll be back even in the second round and in the playoffs for a long time, and it's exciting for Thunder fans. But as of right now, I think Dallas they're built to be a championship contender.
Yeah.
I agree.
I will say this about OKC. I do wish their Sam Presti would kind of move the chips a little bit more, like because it's low key kind of knocking on the door of the Danny Ainge thing, where he's kind of just like hoarding his treasure, and they're on the cusp of something potentially great here. And let's not forget, like we talk about them as they're young, and a lot of them are. Shai's 26, so I don't. I do see a world where they could just build on that core. I do think if the possibility of upgrading your roster significantly, and I'm not talking about taking a flyer on a Gordon Hayward, who may or may not give you what you want. I'm talking about like if the star is available, you have the assets to get one to put next to Shea. I think they would benefit off of a move like that.
No, I agree, and I
For
think that
now and
if
long term,
I think if they don't do that this offseason, then that's like a failure, because we know that these windows don't exist for so long,
Yep.
and there's plenty of teams that are going to continue to get better alongside with them.
Yep.
So I don't think that I would be very shocked if he doesn't do something,
Yeah.
and he doesn't take some kind of an initiative to switch up or to shake up the core a little bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be like an all-in move or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think of it just something similar to what the Pacers and like the Wolves did in terms of like being able to add a significant piece.
Yep.
And doesn't have to be the final piece because it's like I don't think the Wolves are done per se. They might be like more rounding out the roster.
Yeah.
But same or for the Pacers, I think they have something else they need to add for sure.
Yep.
Like they've made it this far, and the Pascal addition, you see the benefits like instantly, clearly. Like it doesn't always happen like that, but I think the next thing is to get that upgrade in some capacity to be more competitive. Because, I mean, it's not like the Thunder couldn't have been in the Western Conference Finals.
Yep.
So taking that first like addition will definitely be the move. But I have faith in Sam Presti. I don't think he's gonna
he's a great
drop
GM.
the ball like that. Yeah.
He's a great GM. And there's that monster in Texas coming. So
Yeah. Exactly.
you never know, bro. And then so moving on, we can move on to the next series. Nuggets Wolves. So this one obviously had the sexy factor, right? Like, Nuggets Wolves in the back and forth. Although I do think this is one of those it's one of those series where you look back on it and you're like, holy shit, that was a great series. But the more you look into it, you realize I think every single game except Game 7 was a blowout.
Yeah.
Up until what I mean. Even Game 7 was a blowout until the Wolves came back. But I do think it was a really entertaining series just for the narratives alone, right? Like, and seeing Ant kind of like come of age, so to speak, right? He's kind of like blossomed into the superstar that a lot of people thought he would. And just the back and forth between him and Jokic, and just like taking shots at each other. So,
Hmm.
so the conversation gets interesting here, right? Because we had a little bit of a discussion of this in our group chat. Um, did the Nuggets play around, or did the Wolves win that series?
I mean, I think you got to say both.
It's
And
gonna
I
go
mean
for
that's like a
both.
cop out answer in a way.
No,
But
no,
Yeah.
100%.
I think I guess if I were like to give one, I'd probably lean more towards the Nuggets dropping
Mm-hmm.
the ball. And it just reminds me a lot of the Celtics last year, where it's like
Mhm.
we were just I don't know what the fuck we were doing actually when we got down to 0-3. But by
Oh,
the time that we locked in, the margin for error was just non-existent.
yep.
So it's like I think this series would have gone seven regard or like 6 or 7 regardless of how locked in the Nuggets were. But
Yep.
the fact that they weren't locked in for 2 games put them even in a bigger handicap that they had to play perfect throughout the series. So it's like
Mhm.
I don't think that the I think yeah, if they were to verse, it would still go 6 or 7, both playing at their peak. But
Yeah.
um yeah, the fact that they didn't lock in until the third game of the series really like showed that you can't be messing around like with any of these teams in the playoffs. And that's why I'm saying it just reminds me of like the Celtics last year, because I even still now think like they aren't completely like locked in.
Yep.
um and I would like to for them to have a series before the finals for them to lock in because we literally just saw what the fuck happened with the Nuggets, where it feels like they're the better team, more the construction it makes sense and they have the best player in the world,
Mm.
yet they still weren't able to pull it out because it took them too long.
Yeah.
Mhm. Nah, I agree for sure. I'm kind of like 50-50. But if I were to lean, I'd probably go the opposite way. I think the Wolves won the series. I think a lot of it goes into, yeah, Denver wasn't locked in, but I think in a series like this, going against a gritty team, Timberwolves, who they've had battles with in the regular season, and they knew like what they're capable of and all that. But I think on Denver's side, their lack of the bench and their key role players that helped them win the championship last year weren't part of the team this year. They didn't really have any pieces to step up and be that X factor for them. Like for example, Bruce Brown. They lost Bruce Brown. They lost Jeff Green.
Yep.
Those are two key players off the bench for them. And then you expect a rising Christian Braun to take Bruce Brown's spot, and then you don't really have someone filling in that hole for Jeff Green. But I think again, yeah, like Denver should their championship, battle tested. They've been there, done that. Like they should have been locked in from the jump. But I think the Wolves they came in with a fearless mentality, and they were just like, it doesn't matter who their championship team. We understand what they've done and all that, but they just came prepared. Like they were ready there. And with a leader like Ant, who genuinely believes like he's the best player in the world, like his confidence is that high. Like he will instill that confidence in this team. And I think the Wolves just like with the Nuggets, they've locked in those 3 games they won, 3 straight from 3 to 5. But I think the Wolves just showed their grit and their grind in 6 and 7. Like they went back home, they knew their backs were against the wall. Uh, Ant stepped up. The whole team really stepped up in the moment and had the blowout win. And then in the game 7, where it's a 50-50 game, anything can happen. They're down 20, and they just put everything together in that second half and just made a run and just pretty much close it out from there. I think you got to give your flowers to the
Yeah.
Wolves. Like I was a believer in them from the jump. The kind of I saw the vision that it was going to work this season. I
Yeah.
honestly didn't expect it to go this far. I'm real genuinely proud of them. They've become America's team at this point. Like everybody's fucking rooting for them. Like,
The
so
22
I
Celtics,
mean,
bro.
yeah. So I mean, so the Wolves definitely they earned it for sure. And
Yeah.
even though everybody's kind of like hopping on that Ant Edwards
I will. I will say
train
this.
now.
I would also lean towards the Wolves kind of winning it, and to the point of what a lot of people are saying, they are kind of built to beat Denver in a way, with the triple bigs that they have, and the double big lineup. Also, kudos to Cat, right? I know a lot of people like were making fun of Rudy for not going 1-on-1 against the Joker, but like that's not really Rudy's game. He's not really a one-on-one defender. But Cat did actually a really good job, as good of a job as you can expect someone to do against a player like Jokic, right? Let's be honest here. You're not gonna completely lock down a player like that, right? Like he's gonna get his and he's gonna impact the game and force his will. But I do like that like game plan of just making him work for everything, right? Cat one-on-one, physical body, and Rudy kind of roaming, and I do think it's a mix of both for sure. And it sounds like a cop out, but it's the truth. Where I didn't think the the Nuggets expected the Wolves to be like to play the way they played, and they dropped both games at home. And to Kyle's point, they kind of had less room for error as the series went on. But I also think a big part of it is when they won their 3 games, it took everything out of them. And to the depth point, which I liked, which I also thought, they didn't really have depth this year. Christian Braun was probably the most consistent player off their bench. But other than that, like you got Justin Holiday getting minutes and Reggie Jackson getting minutes. Where, if to be honest with you, if you told me Reggie Jackson was on their team, I would have been shocked. like, but obviously the Nuggets have that starting five. Their starting five is very good. They have the best player in the world, arguably the best 1-2 punch in the NBA. But at the end of the day, I think the Wolves top to bottom in the 8-man rotations that they played were more consistently available than the Nuggets, right? Like the Nuggets had arguably a better top 4, but the Wolves had a better overall roster. And I think the Nuggets having to kind of like work for everything all year and all postseason, even against the Lakers, they were working for everything against the Lakers. I think it was crazy because they swept the Lakers. No, I'm sorry, they beat them by 5, but they were down double digits in every single game against the Lakers, right?
Yep.
And to come back in the NBA, it takes a lot of work. So I think that played a huge role, man. Where when you get to the playoffs, it's obviously a more shortened roster. You're playing a lesser rotation, 7-8-man rotations, and I think that took its toll on this team. And we kind of went back and forth, right? We were like, the Wolves won 2 games, and we were like, oh, Wolves in 6. And then the Nuggets won 3 games. We're like, holy shit, reverse sweep.
Reverse sweep.
You know what I mean? We were all thinking it. Like, this. Yeah. I'm not gonna sit here and say I saw the future or anything, but like, yeah. I do think in hindsight, obviously everything's easier to see in hindsight. But I do think part of it is the Nuggets running out of steam because they didn't have enough depth throughout the year, and they didn't make a move at the deadline. So,
yeah, my only like contention with that is that I don't really think the depth thing was as, or I don't think that was as big of a downfall as you guys may talk about it. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I say that is because, like I was saying earlier too, I think their defense was much improved this year. The Nuggets. So they were like a top 10 defense throughout the year, and I think that was very underrated for them as a team. And obviously like carried over into said playoffs and stuff. And that was based off of like their personnel and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't as worried about the production off the bench. Reggie Jackson also was like solid. Like he was good as that. I would have taken him over like a Jeff Green anyways. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, I think the main thing is that your core guys like weren't able to show up. Yes, Jokic was doing everything and he got gassed. Yeah. But I think not allowing yourself to have games, and I mean like this is scheme too. I'm never saying that, or I'm not even close to saying that this is completely on the Nuggets like falling apart, whatever. This is 100% like this is both the Wolves playing like a great series and defensive like schemes alongside the Nuggets putting themselves in a hole because they didn't get any. You can't always rely on the production of your third to fourth, like even your second to fourth guy all the time. And Michael Porter Jr. didn't score double-digit points after Game 3.
Yep.
So you had 4 games of him dropping under double digits, and he was such a huge part in why they won against the Lakers because of his efficiency and his scoring and stuff like that. Aaron Gordon was basically non-existent after his 2 great games in terms of like offensively. And I think by putting your team in a like a hole like that, you aren't able to recover from games like that because people aren't they're not going to show up every single game, but they are in theory. You know, your team is going to show up 4 times out of 7, or that's like what you're banking on. And I think they didn't allow themselves to get that because they were already down 0-2 by that point. So it's
Yep.
like their margin of error in terms of like their guys not being able to step up on the offensive end just didn't exist. I do agree that the literal game 7, that Jokic being so gassed
Yeah.
and basically not having receiving any help was a huge reason why they lost that game.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, like I don't think that would have mattered because he would have been playing those minutes anyways.
Right.
Like even if they had extra depth or whatever, because he's the best player.
Right.
But it's just that those other guys weren't able to step up in that time frame, and I think that's just what happens sometimes. Like there are series, and I mean, I keep fucking bringing it back to the Celtics, but there are series where just like players just don't show up. Like we've had plenty of series where it was just Tatum and none of the guys helped out, and all the blame gets shifted onto Tatum in those respects. The same way that everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, Jokic dropped the ball and shit. But a lot of the times, like you'll see, like damn, this role player shot like 20% from three or something
Yeah.
that series,
I think
or
it's,
like Michael Porter Jr. averaged like 9 points that series.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think it's crazy though, because like I don't think anybody would really even blame Joker for losing this series.
No, I know,
'Cause, like,
but I know people are gonna like he's obviously
Yeah, the scapegoat.
going to be the
Yeah, 'cause
scapegoat,
he's
yeah,
the guy.
of it.
He's the guy that kind of.
But he performed well enough to where people aren't really gonna like hate on him. But I think
Yeah.
at the core it's like it's a multitude of things. None of your guys were able to have
100%.
bad games because you were already down 0-2
Right, 100%,
essentially.
100%. And I think, and obviously it's like an open-ended question, right? Because like it's never really gonna be one or the other, like unless it's like a catastrophic choke job.
Yeah.
like, but yeah, no, I agree. I do think it was more of the Wolves. Personally, in my opinion, I would lean more towards the Wolves winning it versus the Nuggets kind of like playing around.
No, I agree. I think that is fine as a take, but I don't think the bench depth is as big of a deal as
Oh no,
is being
100%.
said in my
I don't-
opinion.
I don't think the bench depth is why they lost, but
Yeah.
I do think it would have helped when you got guys like Michael Porter Jr. not scoring double digits. I think Aaron Gordon was great in every game except Game 6. Oh, 7, sorry.
6 and 7.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Game 6 he was good, I think,
It was,
but it was a blowout
Yeah.
by the end of the third quarter. So
Yeah, I mean
he's not
it's
really
hard
playing.
because like they weren't also respecting him as a shooter because he
Yeah.
wasn't shooting. So it's like that played like a big part into why they were able to
Right,
play different defensively. And I think yeah.
but yeah,
But I think like I said that plays a huge part into just the personnel of the Wolves is on the defensive end
Yeah.
and just like the schemes. It's like yes, you could say Michael Porter Jr. just shot ass that series, but the other half of it is they were playing really good defense on him. So
Yep.
it's like
no, for sure.
regardless, like obviously the Wolves like won it, and they deserve to have won that series. But the Nuggets definitely like did not play the way that we would have expected like a seasoned championship team to
Yeah.
play.
yeah, 100%. And
No, that's weird.
yeah,
Yeah, but like, I mean, I agree with your depth thing, but I'm not gonna say it would have swayed the series. But the only other thing I would probably say is like yeah, you were talking about like Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. not having good shooting night, and I think a part of that could be like if they had the depth and if they had somebody else that they could trust, Mike Malone could have had some. I'm not gonna say I'll just bring up Bruce Brown, but he was playing fantastic during their run. Like if he could have had another option to kind of negate that and put him in and see if he could have been that X factor. Like yeah, maybe he would have birthed everything too, or maybe he could have been a hero. Like I feel like just having that extra depth in that case, it could go a long way. Like just and the fact that they lost him, which I feel like he was the big X factor in the championship run. Like he was playing like a crazy, like a two-way fucking guard. Like he was rebounding the ball, he was playing making, he was hitting threes and all that. Like
No,
I'm
I
not
agree.
trying to say like he would have been the determining factor in the series, but if the Nuggets did have that option to be like, all right, MPJ's not having the game, like let's slot him and take his spot. Like it's something else could happen. It could have been a different outcome. But
No, I get what you're saying. I just think that yeah, like Bruce Brown obviously was a huge loss for them as a whole, but I just think regardless in a game 7, you're gonna ride with your top 5 guys.
For
I
sure.
think that will always like remain true, and I think for sure like those sparks can happen from guys, but I'd say 80% of the time like a coach is going like regardless of if they're having a good game or not, they're like your top 5 guys for a reason because you have
Yeah,
more faith that they're going to create something out of nothing.
No, for
Um,
sure.
so even then, like yeah, I think that would have been the same thing where it's like even if they had like a if they had like a the most trusted guy on the bench, he
hmm
still would have played, or
Yeah.
like
they
yeah, no,
still
for
would have
sure.
played like
In
a
games,
crazy amount of minutes.
no, game 7, yeah, but
Yeah.
in the two that they dropped at home, like I feel like he could have been, you know, they wouldn't have lost the first two. They probably would have split, but
Right.
I don't know.
It's
Everything
really all
happened.
theoretical at this point.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just
But oh, actually, props to the big purr. I had to say that
oh
name one
man.
time. Shout out to Cat. Cat.
No, actually, no.
I think we've all me specifically have kind of like pointed him out as that one liability with the Wolves, and you know what? Yo, he's shown up. I think he's played amazing all playoffs. So and all
Agreed.
year really. But yo, he's the big purr, man. The big purr's here,
Hmm.
and he's in the Western Conference Finals before Joel Embiid. So
Yep.
Mhm.
so on to the series, Mavs Wolves. Okay, so I'm gonna lay it out for you guys because I honestly, personally, in my opinion, I really do believe this is a true toss up, and
Yeah. No, actually.
I actually had a hard time picking who I thought would win this series. So
Not gonna lie.
I'm gonna ask y'all who you got.
Me,
Peter can go first.
to be honest, honestly I was thinking about it. It took me quite a while. I'm not gonna lie, but I think at the end of the day, I will always ride with the experience and the talent. So I take Dallas in 7, bro. I
Mm,
think it's either 6 or 7.
This is
But
ironic.
knowing the NBA, I kind of know. Like, yeah, I even said it earlier. Like, I was a believer in the Wolves. I didn't. I honestly personally didn't think they were gonna make it this far. Like,
No, I
if they
agree.
did, it was cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I think I was high on the Wolves. But I think Dallas has proven, like, after all, even my like, questions and all that, they've proven what they're capable of. And I don't think I could doubt the duo of Luca and Kyrie because Kyrie will show up when he needs to, and Luca will always put up the numbers, and he will always make an impact on the team. So, and the Wolves again, it's going to come like I don't think they have the experience. They have the grit and the grind, but I think in the end, like in a 7 game series where it's going to be toe to toe, matchup for matchup, like it's going to be an adjustment game. Like I think Jason Kidd kind of has that edge over Chris Finch and company. Um, like it's gonna be crazy. Like Jaden McDaniels for sure is gonna get the assignment on Luca. Kyrie, and say he's gonna guard Kyrie. That's gonna be interesting. I feel like Kyrie's gonna have a breakout series this game. This series,
and he's
like
gonna get cooked.
and yeah, and Solomon he wants to smoke. I feel like
We'll see though.
Kyrie
I don't
We'll
know.
see.
I don't
We'll
know.
see. He's good. He's great
Yeah,
defensively. I'm
yeah.
just
I don't know.
saying.
I don't know.
It's Kyrie,
for
bro.
sure.
But it is
Again,
Kyrie. It's not going to be Jamal Murray, but
like, but I think again we gave props to Cat all series playoffs. I think he's going to be the determining factor in the series. If Cat can show up and he can put up big numbers and be highly effective, I think he will be the determining factor on whether or not the Wolves take it to Game 7 or even win the series. And who knows? I think we'll get a more of a feel for it in the first couple games and see how PJ Washington matches up with him. But I think he easily, for sure. I don't know about you guys. He easily has the easiest matchup between those starting 5. Cat against
oh
PJ.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
No, I don't know actually. I don't know because PJ is actually very very good, like underrated defensively.
He's underrated,
Um,
but I
and I
think
think I think Cat's whole game is being like obviously he has the perimeter game, but when he's like really in his bag, he is like he plays like bully ball
He
essentially.
could
The
post
only
up.
downfall is that he can't bully ball the best of the centers.
Yeah.
But I do think that
The Marcus
PJ is
Cousins
a
meme, bro.
yeah. So like I think PJ is unique because he actually is like a big like guy,
He's
but
physical.
he's just not like a taller player or anything like that.
to
So
me,
Yeah.
he's pretty much and to me, I see him. He's just as equal as Aaron Gordon. And he just
yeah,
got a shot, in my opinion. He could
yeah.
shoot the
So
corner threes,
it'll be.
more reliable.
I'd be shocked if Cat has the easiest like matchup overall. But I do get what you're saying. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, for me, I'm kind of like, I don't know, because I think it really banks on the health of Luca. If Luca is able to, or like is healthy, I could see them going or winning it in like 6 or 7. But he hasn't looked like himself all playoffs, and I don't
Hmm.
magically expect him to be playing at the MVP level that he was playing at a little bit before the season ended and stuff. And I think that'll be the biggest factor because um, the Mavericks role players have been playing at their peak, in my opinion. Like they're at this is their best run, or this is like the highest potential of offense that I can see from them. And I don't think that that'll continue with the defense of the Timberwolves. The only other like the other half of that is that I don't think that the I mean, we saw it with the Nuggets too, where like there's a lot of offensive lulls with the Timberwolves, and that's
Mm-hmm.
also why I was like very I wasn't like super low on them, but I just didn't expect them to get this far because their offense can really stagnate and get like be a struggle.
Yep.
Obviously, their defense has carried them to this point, um, but I just don't see the Mavericks role players playing to this crazy high potential. While the Timberwolves defense will be superior to the Mavericks defense, in my opinion. I
Yep.
think they're on like a generational run, not obviously generational, but like they're playing out of their minds defensively and they're locked the fuck in. So if Luca specifically, because I think he would like the Jaden McDaniels matchup more than the Lou Dort
Hundred
matchup.
percent.
So if he is able to play the way that he wants to play and produce the way that we would expect him to produce, then I could see them winning it for sure. Because
Yeah.
I also don't think Ant is going to continuously save them on the offensive end and drop efficient 40 balls like throughout this playoffs. Like he's playing out of his mind, but like I don't think that that'll carry on throughout the whole playoffs. And he's basically the core of their offense.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
if he don't got it going like that, um, and yeah, they had like a really gritty game in Game 7 where he didn't play great offensively. But Game Sevens are so like
It's a
they
coin
can
flip.
fluctuate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Anything.
fucking
Yeah.
coin flip that don't really like stick out to me. What sticks out to me that is that he like averaged 30 plus on really good efficiency on every time they won.
Right.
Hmm.
Nah. So like, wait, who'd you pick?
Fuck. I didn't even pick.
You didn't pick.
I'm
Make a
gonna go
case for both.
I'm gonna go Wolves. I'm gonna go Wolves because I'm
In
not
how
sure about the
many
Luca
though?
health.
In how many though?
Probably 7 because they got home
Yeah.
court now.
Okay. So I was going back and forth because like every argument I made for the Wolves, I could also kind of like you can also kind of counter for the Mavs,
Yeah.
right? It's like okay, the Wolves have defense and size, but the Mavs have also been really good defensively in this playoff run,
Exactly.
right? Like
That's what I was gonna say.
which is something that's kind of shocking when you think about the Mavericks. You don't really think about defense,
Bro, I'm telling you,
you
Ivan.
watch them play and they're very good defensively.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
they're
You
one of
know,
the best teams
and
defensively.
you know, shout out to Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford.
Hmm.
And then Peter, just top to bottom, they have really good defense. And surprisingly, like I mean, not surprisingly, Luca always gives the effort on defense, but like Kyrie been really good defensively this playoffs.
Yes,
Which is
he's been a
shocking
fucking defensive playmaker.
because like where was that when you were in Boston? I'm a hater. I'm sorry. So, but no, like, but for real though, and for all, and you make arguments for them for all, like kind of like opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Because like for the Wolves, I agree where their defense has carried them, and the downside is it's the Ant only offense, right? It's like, and the thing with Ant, he's not always gonna get a good shot, but he's not looking for the good shot. Like he wants those difficult shots,
Oh yeah,
right?
Mhm.
And that's kind of like his game, and that's really, and he's like a volume scorer to the truest form, right? Where like for every efficient game, you're gonna have an inefficient game the same way like you saw in Game 7. Whereas the Mavs don't really have that in the sense where those guys are genuinely tough shot makers and they do it efficiently. Like Kyrie's not getting easy shots either, but he's such an amazing finisher. Like you look at the box score, he's like 15 for 20 when he's taking like these crazy contested layups in the paint or like step back threes. So like, who are you taking in that scenario, right? Because one can always beat the other, and I guess like the genuine basketball take has always been you're gonna take a great offense over a great defense like 9 out of 10 times in a one-on-one matchup. So at the end of the day, though, I do think, to Kyle's point, I think the Mavericks role players are playing out of their fucking minds. Um, you know, Derek Jones, right? That's his name. Yeah.
Yeah,
Derek
Derek Jones
Jones
Jr.
has really come into his own. He was kind of like a journeyman in the NBA, but he's been playing great.
Oh yeah, he's been like their
He's
fourth best player, bro.
like
It's crazy.
amazing 3-and-D for the entire for the entire season, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
But can he keep that up against a more stout defense in the Wolves? I don't
Especially
know.
on the perimeter.
But I do think to go back and forth, you kind of just it's a coin flip. So I'm going with the Wolves just because they're on a Cinderella run.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a lot of the 22 Celtics, right? Where it's like, where honestly, dude, like you catch like
No, I agree,
a bottle and it can carry you through. And the thing that's carrying them through is as good as the Mavs have been defensively. I think the Wolves are just kind of like a level above that.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I think the other like, so the main two factors now that I'm like thinking more about it, like I said, is what the first one is obviously Luka's health. If Luka's healthy, it could easily go to him or like to the Mavs. But I think the other factor is that a lot of these times, and the reason why I've been picking the Mavs overall is just the fact that they have the size and athleticism for a team that can win in the playoffs.
Yep.
Like I think those are super underrated aspects for a team to reach a championship level. That front court needs to be like, athletic and big and physical and stuff like that. But for the first time in this playoffs, I don't think that they have the advantage on that end, and they have predicated their offense and their defense on that because like obviously like Luka and Kyrie are getting their own, but they're very good playmakers, and the front court takes advantage of that and gets a lot of easy buckets because of their shot creation and gravity and all those things, right? But I don't think that they can take advantage of that as much with the front court and the bodies that the Timberwolves have.
Yeah.
All over the place, whether it's like Rudy Gobert, Cat, Naz Reid, or even like Jaden McDaniels and stuff, like when they're in those lanes. So that's where I think a whole half of their offense will be cut in terms of like not being as efficient anymore. And that on top of Luka's health makes me feel like the Wolves will be able to grind that out, even though their offense has already been like in flux. But they've gotten here so far because of their defense, like we've been saying, and that's not going anywhere. And like you were saying, it's a step above the Mavericks defense, in my opinion.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I do. But again, I picked the Wolves, but I truly do believe this is like a real toss-up series.
Absolutely, no,
like,
yeah, for sure.
Even with Luka's injury, I do think it's still a toss-up with that.
No, yeah, it is. It is.
So man, and it'll obviously, in my opinion, be the more interesting series compared to the Celtics, because that should be a cakewalk, if we're being honest.
Yep.
But yeah, Wolves in 7 for me. I believe Kyle, you also said Wolves in 7.
Yep.
And Nathan, you said you had Mavs in 7, right?
Yep.
So we'll see.
I'd be shocked if this doesn't go 7. Though.
I would be
like,
very shocked.
This is like they're literally built very similar.
Either 7 or like close games, like really close 6 games. The
league wants this to go to 7, bro.
It has to go 7, man.
It's gonna go to 7.
Scott Foster.
Luka versus Ant, man. That's gonna be cinema.
That's so fun, man. That's actually so fun.
CTV, bro.
Yo, look at the narratives. I cannot wait to see the arguments that pop up on Twitter whenever one or the other wins.
No, actually,
like, that's gonna be so fun, man. Because they got the weirdest stands. Like, in general, like Tatum too. Like they all like. I think someone said this, and it's the greatest fucking one of the greatest Twitter lines I've ever seen, and it's like, y'all aren't fans of the players, you're just sexually attracted to them, and a lot of times it's very true, man. Like it's like
for a lot of these guys, for
sure, man. It's like, yo, man,
because there's no way you're like a stan of a player that. Like that's different. Like you can be a fan, or like that's your favorite player, but like these guys be taken to another level.
There's a different boundary, because Jason Tatum's my favorite player. But like, the way
I would never call myself a Tatum stan.
The way they talk about these dudes sometimes, man, like, yo, you gotta stop, bro. Especially the shy fans. Like, they're not even hiding it. Like,
no, that shit's funny. Like, I feel like with Shea fans, they high key be like, they be trolling, like playing a bit, I'd be saying that shit with Shea. Shea's one like my favorite player.
Listen, man.
Or one of my favorite players.
Man, I feel like there's a bit, and then there's like it's
No,
like,
no, no. Yeah, there's
hey
there's for
man,
sure both. There's
like, hey
both.
man, I'm all for gay rights, pride. Yo, what's up? Like, all you baby. But like, yo man, some of y'all take it too far, man. Did you see the fucking Okay, this is a little off topic, but it's funny because like, remember when Shay signed his deal with Skims?
Yeah,
And then someone
Yeah,
tweeted something it's like, "Yo, I don't see no print." I'm like, "Yo, what's up, man?
yeah, it's
You gotta chill, bro.
yeah.
What
Why
are
are we
you
going
doing?"
there? Why are we going
crazy.
there?
Yeah,
Oh man, this is not
That's
basketball
funny.
discourse. This is the wrong
It's
balls
not.
discourse, baby.
It's
Like,
not. But yeah, I do think it's gonna be really fun to see
it's gonna be
because I
fun.
mean these are all the guys that are like,
Yeah.
oh, who's face of the league, blah 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 blah
Mm-hmm.
blah. So it's like it'll be very fun to see a dedicated like playoff like this to finish out the playoffs. It's all the guys that everyone has been talking about
Yeah,
to
man.
potentially like take the reins of the league. So that discourse is also going to be crazy
Oh, that's
when
gonna
we
be.
see like the Luca winning a game or like an Ant winning a game, depending on how they do it.
Yeah.
So
hmm
I'm gonna be super excited for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
yeah,
So yeah, I think we all have season 5, and then
Yep.
we have the Wolves, Mavs. All of us have it going 7. Me and Kyle, Wolves, Nathan, Mavs.
Yep.
So it's gonna be fun. I think.
Unless something crazy happens, we'll probably just see everyone
Yeah.
after these series end.
Yeah,
Yep.
probably.
Unless we need like, yo, we gotta talk about this
Yo,
series, like
that-
emergency pod or some shit.
Yo, if we got like fucking Luca and Ant going on like a Donovan Mitchell versus Jamal Murray type
No,
in
actually.
the bubble, well, then we might have to have a pod
Exactly.
like very soon. But yo, until unless it happens, until then,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
Yes,
peace
sir.
out.
Peace.
Yo.